an X-Files Rewatch podcast, or reread podcast, or reading for the first time podcast.
One of those things.
One of those things. I'm Nick.
And I'm Kim.
And the X-Files is pretty dead. It's still dead.
Dead.
Well, nothing's happening. Or at least nothing obvious or public is happening.
No conventions, no fan events, no rumours for the supposed revival.
No comics, no books, nothing.
Could it be the end?
It could be. All things must come to an end eventually. Except these days, where you just drag it on forever. So, today we're going to talk about Perihelion.
So, the future of the X-Files.
The future of the X-Files, or the only thing that happens after My Struggle 4 that we have to date.
And it should be noted that at present Perihelion is the canon continuation of the series, though we have learnt, like with the X-Files Season 10 and 11 comics, that if anything new does occur, they do sometimes revoke canon.
Yeah, I'm going to say I don't rate this one's chances of continuing past this, but we'll get to that. Anyway, this was written by Claudia Gray and first published in July 2024. So, in lieu of anything else, Claudia Gray has previously written for DC Comics. House of L, which I think is Superman. I don't know.
I'm not sure, I've never heard of it.
She wrote Evernight, or the Evernight series.
Yes, I've read some of them.
A whole lot of Star Wars novelizations, or extended books for Extended Expanded Universe.
Okay.
And this one threw me. Haunted Mansion books.
Haunted Mansion, like Disney's Haunted Mansion?
Disney's Haunted Mansion, yeah.
There was a movie of that, wasn't there?
The thing, there's been 2 movies. So I don't think either of them did very well. Yeah, no, this is the one. After Pirates of the Caribbean, they said we can definitely turn other rights into a film, and discovered that no, you can't.
Is that Cackles in It's a Small World?
Yeah, well, it's come up before, but one of the things about Pirates of the Caribbean is that On Stranger Tides exists, and On Stranger Tides is a much better thing to build off of than Pirates of the Caribbean.
I don't know what On Stranger Tides is.
Okay, so On Stranger Tides is a novel by Tim Powers.
Okay.
The other claim to fame to this, and one of those things where you start to go, wait a damn minute.
Is this the Monkey Island one?
Yes, this is the book that inspired both Monkey Island and Pirates of the Caribbean.
It's amazing they're both inspired by the same thing.
It is. Well, Ron Gilbert for Monkey Island, completely tangent here, but anyway, Ron Gilbert for Monkey Island apparently got the inspiration originally from thinking it would be nice if you could stop Pirates of the Caribbean, get off, and go and walk around the exhibits.
Okay.
Go backstage and everything. And you can see the end of Monkey Island 2 kind of bears out that as your goal.
Yeah, it does.
But in terms of actually developing the storyline, that comes from On the Stranger Tides, which if you read it, it's interesting because you can see Jack Sparrow is kind of there. He's nowhere near as extreme, but the concept of him exists there.
Okay.
LeChuck and Barbossa and even Blackbeard are present there as well. And I think it's just Blackbeard On Stranger Tides.
Like, Dread Pirate LeChuck is very much inspired by Blackbeard.
Yeah. And so he's also inspired by the character in the book of Blackbeard. I think it's Blackbeard anyway. And it's an interesting read, I seem to remember, but it's like the allegiances are not what you'd expect coming the other direction. The most interesting curio of all this is, when you look at Pirates of the Caribbean after playing Monkey Island, you kind of, if you sort of take a step back, you kind of go, so Will Turner is Guybrush Threepwood, and Elaine Marley is Elizabeth Swann, and Barbossa is LeChuck.
I seem to remember there are even little nods about holding your breath for an unthinkable amount of time and things like that.
There are, and where it gets interesting and a little bit conspiracy-minded is one of the writers for Pirates of the Caribbean was hired to adapt Curse of Monkey Island into a film.
Okay.
Didn't go anywhere, obviously. But it's interesting that he's one of the people who worked on Pirates of the Caribbean, and he has sworn blind nothing crept in. But Will Turner doesn't exist On Stranger Tides and doesn't exist in Pirates of the Caribbean. He's not differentiated enough from Guybrush Threepwood for comfort.
Yeah, he is kind of similar to Guybrush.
The naive person who's not really understanding what he's doing, but going to try and do the good thing.
Naive and oddly charming, yeah.
And Elizabeth Swann, not so much a damsel in distress, but perfectly willing to fight back.
Yeah. Okay.
And it all fits together. And it's like someone, I think something audio company noted that there's some stray lines from earlier versions of the Pirates of the Caribbean that didn't get taken out. It's like when Barbossa invades Port Royal, they take Elizabeth Swann away. And the maid says, "Oh, don't you understand you're the governor's daughter?" That means absolutely nothing in a wider context, because it's all about the medallion and everything.
How convenient, because you fight like a dairy farmer.
Exactly, and I fight like Cal. Anyway, so Haunted Mansion films are a thing, and there are novels for it. Not gonna look at those because I don't understand why you'd want to do that.
But the Muppet one's great.
The Muppet one is great. And I'm sure the Star Wars ones are fine, but I've kind of sworn off the Star Wars ones. I like the Thrawn trilogy, and I'm happy to never look at another Star Wars book as long as I live.
It was a running joke when I played the Star Wars Jedi games
Oh,
that I
yeah.
know nothing about Star Wars whatsoever, beyond what's in the movies.
Yeah. I mean, it's odd that we're at this point because in the old days, we're sure our age, but in the George Lucas era, there were the grades of canonicity. You start.
Oh, I like the idea of there being a grade.
It was.
Can we put this on the X-Files?
Well, we should do. It was okay. So, if anyone's never heard this, Star Wars had a really weird attitude to canon,
Okay.
and it was there is. I think I can't remember all the terminology, but there was basically the top level was if it's in a film,
It is canon.
or George Lucas has directly said something. So films, TV series, and anything he says is like unimpeachable. Never mind it retconned itself anyway, but it's like the top level was unimpeachable. And then you had graduations down from that, and it's things like most of the video games and books were like one level down because you have to get certain permissions from Lucasfilm to go and do them.
Okay.
So there is a certain amount of authorial credit there. And it just gets all the way down until you hit the bottom level, which is the Star Wars Holiday Special. The thing they don't want to admit exists.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of these models we want to say, like, can everyone not adopt this because it would make people so much less weird about canon?
Yeah.
Given that it's that people like to accumulate everything in its case of, no, some of these ideas are just bad. We should jettison them.
Well, in the world of X-Files is basically whatever the new thing is canon, and sometimes it gets demoted. So, at one time, like, the season 10 comic was the canon continuation, but then they made the season 10 TV show, and that got bumped out of canon.
Well, we can go even more directly. My Struggle 2 has been retconned out of proceedings.
Yeah. Even within X-Files' own continuity.
X-Files, yeah, it's like absolutely insane. Okay, so we're going to try something a bit different with this because despite being over a year old, there is no decent synopsis of perihelion floating around. There's the blurb and some people's very brief synopsis, not the whole thing.
Should we possibly warn here that you're about to spoil the entire book?
I'm about to spoil the entire book, and I've made some notes. We're going to try and go as far as we can and then patch the rest of it together as best we can.
Okie dokie.
So, this book, and we'll get into the timeline, this book happens 4 months after My Struggle 4? About?
Estimate was 4 or 5 months after.
Best estimate based on how it ends.
Yeah.
It's got to be 4 or 5 months. So, Mulder and Scully have moved in together. So this is Scully's second move in less than half a year.
They've got a brand new spanking townhouse too.
Yes. And we don't know where she was living in interim when her apartment blew up, but now they live together in separate rooms.
Yes.
Which is an important plot point anyway. In those 4 months, Scully has a job at a genetics place which does research into childhood diseases.
Called Genomica or something like that. Yep.
Not actually that important, but might be a setup for future books if they ever come out.
Yeah.
Mulder has secretly been keeping an eye on a comatose Skinner who, surprise, survived My Struggle 4. We thought he was very dead, but then we thought he got pinned to a wall, and he didn't.
And Mulder's worried about people being able to finish him off while he's in his coma.
Yeah. And there's later some development where the doctors there are a bit weird about Skinner and they eventually get him transferred somewhere else.
Yeah.
That feels like a lingering plot that doesn't go anywhere. Or is, again, it's headed somewhere else. We don't know where it's going.
At least, I don't want to keep correcting you, but it's more, there's one shady doctor that seems to be up to something and a nurse who's kind of on Mulder's side who helps him get Skinner out.
Yeah. No, correct all you want, that's fine.
Yeah.
So, Mulder and Scully then get resummoned to the FBI for, you'll never guess why they were brought back to the FBI. Just take a wild guess.
The X-Files has been reopened.
Dang it. How did you guess that?
It never happens.
It never happens. And as a priority, they're handed 2 cases. One is about a series of pregnant women who were being attacked by an unknown serial killer. The other is about the smoke assassin, I think they call him, or the shadow assassin.
The first one for ease, it's a killer that they nickname Bright Eyes that is attacking pregnant women. And again, the smoke assassin, let's call him, who's targeting other people.
Yes. And the pregnant woman one actually forms a part of the sting of the book, because this is a woman is attacked by a man in a parking lot, while all electronic devices in that parking lot go haywire and melt. This will be important. Scully quickly realizes that attack happened while she was in the same building having an ultrasound.
Yes, it's the parking lot under the hospital.
And it becomes very personal for her because as a pregnant woman, like she currently is, because we're carrying on from she's pregnant at the end of My Struggle 4.
I might just caveat that as well as that murder is described in horrific graphic detail.
That's true.
Which I know has upset a lot of readers. None of the rest of the novel is that graphic, but if you're squeamish, that one is particularly unpleasant.
Yeah, if you skip over that, I don't think anything else is quite that bad.
Mm.
So, yeah, I just know the sting is a bit nastier than it should be.
Yeah.
So Scully has a sense of personal ambition, and it's around here I think we start getting that Scully and Mulder wants to talk about William, but Scully doesn't. And both of them are kind of fretting about their relationship in this new phase they've got into.
Yeah.
Which is similar to Post the Truth, but this one they seem to be more overtly romantic. Because between Truth and I Want to Believe was actually kind of very woolly, wasn't it, on what happened? Well, all we know is they lived together and they were sharing a bed, but how romantic that was never clear.
Yeah.
This one is very much a romantic thing, and the author's made some comments on this, and we can get into that later as well.
Trying to make a go of it for their new baby.
Yeah. Somewhere around here, we are introduced, kind of out of nowhere, to a self-help guru in Mystic, Arizona. And she is running a lodge health center kind of thing.
In my head, it's a lot like that one from the later series of Arrested Developments, but I don't know how you'd actually describe this. Sort of like a wellness retreat?
Yeah, although in Arrested Development, it was just the hut in the middle of nowhere, and it's actually a complex.
Yes, it is. Complex. But it's that sort of idea, a holistic sort of medicine thing.
And this all sounds very new agey until the offhand mentioned that one of the people booking in has scaly hands.
Yes.
So something's up. Something's weird. Also, meanwhile, a man called Robin Vane is told to keep an eye on Mulder and Scully by a group who are described as the Inheritors. And they have on their wall a framed picture of one Carl Bush. And if the name doesn't mean anything to you, because maybe you weren't paying attention to My Struggle 3, he's smoking. So, yep, that's exactly who you think he is. Couldn't even get him to stop smoking for a portrait, which that gives me a headache as well, but anyway. Mulder and Scully discover their office is flooded with case files. Like, there are stacked floor to ceiling, more cases than they've ever seen in their life. Apparently, supernatural stuff is just on the rise in general, and that's why they've been brought back in.
Should it be noted that they've got a new AD in Skinner's absence as well?
Yes. There's a new AD. She seems to be on level. Kirsch has just been shuffled out of the proceedings. He just isn't... He's mentioned, he doesn't show up.
Yeah.
It's kind of odd given that he fired them in My Struggle 4 and they've just basically said, no, we're not going to be bothered by that. So Scully, I think as a result of My Struggle 4 and the revelations in that, is concerned about the nature of her DNA. This ties into a lot of season 10 and 11 stuff. And so has got a friend at Genomica to analyse her DNA. Friend comes back and says, okay, I can't find alien DNA in your DNA. What I can see is you have... So there's scientific jargon here, which is the telomeres on DNA. And this is like, I only vaguely understand this. It's basically long strands at the end of your DNA that as you age, they slowly get eroded away.
Yeah. Your telomeres are at the longest when you're newborn.
Yeah. This is theoretically a way you can tell the aging process is happening. And if you could prevent this happening, then technically you can gain immortality. Technically. No one's entirely sure how you do this, or if it's even possible to do it, but you can see where the logic comes from. For the sake
of the story, this is what they're going for, though.
But you can see where the logic's coming from. Scully and this friend at Genomica discover that Scully doesn't have newborn telomeres, she has unborn telomeres, as in they have not been touched by any exchange interaction.
They're longer than even the youngest baby would have.
Yeah, she's basically functionally immortal, as per what Clyde Bruckman told her, although, as I said to you, she never even contemplates Tithonus. Which...
Yeah, calm down, stick with the plot.
I'll stick with the plot. We'll go with that.
Yeah, what they're getting at is the fact that this is why Scully is suddenly fertile again as well.
Yeah, this is the explanation for that, without going to My Struggle 3's unpleasant revelations. Mulder then meets, for the second time, because he met this person after a podcast but didn't give her the time of day, a woman who, for reasons we'll get into, I have to specify, is wearing an Avatar The Last Airbender t-shirt, which causes Mulder to call her Avatar. Scully, meanwhile, goes to a maternity store and by chance runs into Bright Eyes as he stalks another victim. She, however, manages to scare him away while the electronics in the store go haywire.
Unfortunately, though, this means that Bright Eyes notices that she's pregnant.
And therefore, he starts stalking her. Around this point, or it could actually be, I forget, Mulder realizes that the smoke killer, because their new AD insists that that one's more important, he's targeting the leftover syndicate members who weren't burned up in season 6. And Mulder is, of course, very suspicious that that's what the FBI are pushing if this guy is basically doing what he'd want them to do. They trace reports of weird smoke patterns near mass killings or inexplicable killings back to this kid called Robin Vane in the 80s, I think it was. English kid. Where he was the only known survivor in a locked store when his parents were murdered like 3 blocks away or something. And Mulder very quickly turns around and suggests that Robin Vane is in fact the killer, not someone else killing on his behalf, because his parents or grandparents, his guardians were abusive, I think it was. And very quickly we discovered that this is correct, and Robin Vane is also at Mystica in Arizona and flits between Arizona and Washington via mechanisms it takes a little while to get to. At Mystica, he talks to the woman in charge and gets her to do something. I can't remember when we find out about her channeling ability, but he has to talk to someone and she doesn't like doing it. And that's left up hanging in the air for now. Mulder comes up with a profile of Bright Eyes, and based on it, they identify 2 suspects in the greater Washington area who it could possibly be. Neither of them actually do pan out, but the second one is the manager of an electronics store. Scully goes to talk to him. He has a workable alibi, I seem to remember.
Yeah.
And also the report of his animal abuse was actually overblown, because that was what they were keying off of.
Yes.
And while there, though, Scully thinks someone is paying undue attention to her. And during this, the whole electronics in the store go haywire again, and things come crashing down, and Scully gets slightly injured. Mulder and Scully go to the hospital to get the baby checked out, because that's what you do. And the electronics in the hospital start going haywire, and so, of course, Bright Eyes must be nearby. So we go out chasing to try and find him. Can't find anyone. There's very few people in the hospital. No one's paying attention to Scully. Around here, Mulder comes up with possibly his biggest conclusion jump I've ever seen and says, "Oh, Scully, you're causing electronic disturbance." And Scully says, "You're insane." And Mulder sort of works on this theory a bit more. So after that, Mulder and Scully talk to her friend at Genomicon. Or Genomics?
It's Genomica.
Genomica.
And she's called Karen, I think.
Karen. They talk to Karen again with a mind to undoing the effects of alien DNA in the population, because they've come to the conclusion that whatever Cancer Man was doing in My Struggle, it was spreading the alien DNA across the world, and that's mutating people.
And we're talking X-Men style, just to make that clear.
Yeah, I was going to build up to that, but so the electrical powers, you can take it that Scully does have electrical powers, and that guy with scaly skin at the wellness retreat, I don't know if we ever see him again, but we see some other people with other abilities.
It ranges. Throughout the story, we see ones that have fairly mundane powers, like someone who can just jump really high. And then you have things like there's someone who looks like an anthropomorphic shark a bit later on as well.
Yeah. And there's an implication that something's happening to Skinner. And this all seems to be very random because Mulder doesn't seem to be getting anything. And someone even comments that he should do because he's been exposed to this the longest of anyone who's still standing. And Karen and most of the rest of them are just, they're just normal humans. Karen's all on board until they say, there's a chance that you might be killed doing this, at which point she runs a mile, as most people would, because, the conspiracy people aren't exactly subtle. Mulder has some more encounters with Avatar and with some various pop culture references we'll get to. And then they zero in on Robin Vane as being the smoke killer, and they trace him to where his credit card was used the most, which is Mystica, Arizona, where he eats at a diner like 3 times a week or something. Mulder goes off there while Scully stays behind for reasons I forget.
I think it's just
Just practicality, is it?
Practicality and the fact that she's been recently injured and she's pregnant.
Yeah. And we'll get to the weird upshot of that. So Mulder goes to Mystica and learns of the Wellness Retreat, goes off to interview the woman in charge, at which point she says, you're finally here, and freaks him about a bit, and just says, okay, someone wants to talk to you, lights a whole lot of incense, like all the incense in the world, and then starts talking in a very gruff, gravelly voice and starts smoking Morley's, because she's channeling Cancer Man, who attempts to tell Mulder what's going on, and Mulder doesn't want to listen, because Mulder never does. And eventually, Cancer Man lets out a few cryptic marks, I think, and then shuts down, and the woman comes back, and Mulder basically beats a hasty retreat. Meanwhile, Scully is at home. There's been, well, actually, no, we skipped over it. There was another Bright Eyes killing like 2 blocks away.
Yes.
And Barry Manilow was involved. No, Barry Manilow's music was involved. Anyway, so she orders pizza while Mulder's out of town. There's a knock on the door. She thinks, the pizza's arrived already. Bright Eyes is standing right there.
No, be fair. Okay. She realises that the pizza's arrived too early and suddenly realises it's probably Bright Eyes. Okay. And so has the gun ready when he's waiting at the door.
Fair enough. But as you said to me before I got to it, it's like, this is like half a page and then he's done. And that's Bright Eyes out.
We'll get to it. But yeah, Scully beats Bright Eyes. But then after the paramedics have taken... not the paramedics, the police, whatever, have been and checked her out, taken Bright Eyes away, the door gets a knock again, at which point Robin Vane is at the door waiting for her.
And he grabs hold of her hand and teleports her to England.
Where he makes her a fry-up.
Well, no, he gives her some tea first and a change of clothes. The next morning, someone else makes her a fry-up. And Robin Vane is a very courteous kind of captor and tells her a bit about the inheritors, being the people who've taken over from the Syndicate. People that Cancer Man looks down on quite badly. He thinks they're all really stupid, because of course he would. And Robin Vane is also actually more on Cancer Man's side than the Inheritors' side, even though he's working for the Inheritors. As it becomes clear, because that's why he keeps going to the Wellness Retreat, so he can talk to Cancer Man, who apparently, the implication is, because he's dead, he can now see everything. And I just feel like they don't plumb that a lot for the usefulness of it. But anyway, Scully is then taken to Mystica, where Mulder has dallied with going back because Scully could be literally anywhere in the world, so rushing him to Washington does make a lot of sense. But for narrative clarity, it means they're in the same location come the ending. Scully is taken to see the head of the Wellness Retreat and asks for proof that she can channel the dead, and of course asks to talk to William. The woman tries and is delighted to say, I can't do it. Scully dismisses this as usual, subterfuge, but she keeps insisting that I can't do it because he's still alive. Give me any other member of your family, I could do them, but not this one. Scully is then taken to, can't phrase it any better than, Charles Xavier's X-Men Academy below the Wellness Retreat, where we get to see, it's a scene out of My Hero Academia, it's a scene out of X-Men, anything where people with multiple superpowers are training simultaneously.
However, there's a bit of a sinister edge because it's inferring it's training them as assassins.
Yes, this is at the behest of the Inheritors. They are trying to do things. Although there's a double cross going on here because Robin Vane takes his orders from Cancer Man, who does not want this to work, so this is going to backfire on Inheritors when they actually try to do it.
Mm.
Around here, Scully finally accepts that yes, she does have magical electrical powers and uses it to short out all the electrics in the building, which attracts Mulder's attention, who's been lurking nearby. Mulder rushes in. All the test subjects, or all the Wellness Retreat guests, are kind of painted sympathetically because they're all very distressed, as it happens, when they're forced to flee.
It's not that they're hostile towards them, it's they're upset that they've got this place that they belong that Mulder and Scully have destroyed.
Yeah, so that's nicely complicated at least. And then Robin Vane demonstrates that his power is effectively limitless because he just teleports all of them away at the same time, which is kind of alarmingly powerful. Mulder and Scully are reunited, happy, and shack up in a motel for a few days. And then the book ends with a trip to the antenatal, neonatal, what the hell do we call them?
Don't know what you call the
OGBYN doctor, whatever, and has a new scan and learned that they're going to have a daughter. Meanwhile, Robin Vane is forced to talk to the inheritors and explain to them what happened and why it turned out they were hiding some things from them, and no one's very impressed. And one of the inheritors, as will be referenced in a little bit, likes to work from home, so is there on a video link and wears interesting t-shirts, so we say, just in case you weren't aware of who Avatar actually is, or what their connection to anything is and why they know what they know. And it ends with, I think, is it Mulder has a little monologue in book about how he and Scully have returned to perihelion, which is a orbital mechanic term.
Yes.
For being a basically stable orbit, I think, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. And that's where the X-Files is at this point in time.
Very good. Well done.
Thank you. I was going to start with, I don't inherently have a problem with fan fiction. I actually really like fan fiction. Some people I know get really antsy if you sort of say this person came from fan fiction, because I know some people just write it off, said, if you tell me you used to write fan fiction, I think you're a bad writer. And it's sort of, that feels really harsh. Well,
I think it's the fact that there's nothing regulating fan fiction, that you can be a great writer and a fanfic writer, or you could just
be mediocre.
Yeah, mediocre. Be that, what's the one who wrote the famous Harry Potter fan fiction that's notoriously terrible?
XXX bloody wrists XXX.
Yeah,
whatever.
You've got that on the other end of the scale.
Inobi. Hi, Inobi.
Yeah.
I love Inobi. So I'm trying to think, which one do you mean? Do you mean Methods of Rationality? No, you're right, you mean My Immortal.
Yeah, My Immortal, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, but I know some people who like really look down on fanfic writers, even if they've proven themselves.
But, people have gone on from writing fanfic to being multi-millionaire bestsellers, like the person who wrote 50 Shades.
Yes. And I think that the 50 Shades is one of the good examples, though, because that was a huge success, yes. At the same time, though, in terms of actual technical ability, though, it's lacking.
Yeah, let's not question the quality of 50 Shades. But it shows that you can become really successful starting out as a fanfic writer.
Yes, and one of the ones where I have still failed to do this, and I'm pretty sure, because I had to Google this quickly to make sure it's who I thought it was, is Tamsin Muir, who wrote Gideon the Ninth.
Oh, yes.
So, completely independently, I read a fanfiction, which is a Final Fantasy VII Kingdom Hearts crossover, of all things.
Okay.
Called But That Was in Another Country. And it's trying to bridge the two universes together.
Okay. Works.
It's a thing people used to try and do a lot, because otherwise they're just characters who show up in things. And Anyway, really, really excellent thing. Unfinished, sadly. It got to a point, and everyone was still on the Final Fantasy VII universe. No one had got anywhere near to going through space and time they'd need to. But it turned out there's an offhand comment one time about, that was written by Guardian 1. Guardian 1 is Tamsin Muir, who wrote Gideon the Ninth. And I want to read Gideon the Ninth now. It's like, I thought that was amazing, and you went off and had a career?
Yeah.
Also, though, I would say, the only X-Files fanfiction I've ever read was the bizarre Final Fantasy VII X-Files crossover.
You have a type.
I have a type, and it had an OC in it, but basically Mulder and Scully, on the day of colonization, get consumed by the black oil, and then Final Fantasy VII happens centuries later. Because the black oil is Genova, of course. And I quite enjoyed those. I don't think anyone else did, because it never come up.
It's very much hitting your niche there.
It really was. I don't know how I ran into those. I say all this to say, I don't have a problem with fanfiction, but this really does read like fanfiction, and more to the point, it reads like someone who said, can I cross the X-Men with the X-Files and get away with it?
See, I don't read fanfiction, I don't know much about it, but at the same time, I don't really have a problem with it. It's fans being fans expanding a universe that otherwise might just wither away into the darkness.
Yeah. And I will say, it's not like the X-Men hasn't crossed over into other stupid universes. Like, there was official Next Generation meets X-Men stuff, which is insane.
Oh, that one's great.
And original series Star Trek that also crossed over into the X-Men.
Oh, I haven't seen the original series one. The Next Gen one is great.
Okay.
It's worth a look in.
Or Aliens meets Batman, which still seems one of the most stupid ones ever. It's like that.
I'm sorry, Godzilla and Charles Barkley would like to speak with you.
Well, that's a Nike advert, wasn't it?
It was a comic strip as well, but
yes,
it was to advertise Nike.
In terms of technical writing, I don't have any problem with the book. I think it's the details where I get kind of hung up. It's
a very well-written book, actually. And I didn't get bored reading it.
No. And I think she's captured Scully very well. I've got no complaints about Scully. I do think it's one of these ones where I would like a different story for Scully, but I understand that this is the position she's been left in. You have to work with what you've got.
In particular, I like the fact that she wrote through Scully's eyes. Therefore, we saw kind of the first-hand feelings about Scully coming to terms with her sexual assault, which is something the main series did not give us in any way. It was largely brushed off in the last few episodes of, Scully, I've got some bad news for you, Cancer Man did the bad thing. But at least through this story, we see how it's affected Scully.
Yes.
And in particular, there's a really nice sequence where she kind of explodes at Mulder, when she feels Mulder's being flippant about her struggle and kind of making it about him, which I thought was actually really nice, and I would have liked more of that.
It would be good. And I think, unfortunately, they're curtailed by it has to be Mulder and Scully double-hander. And I would say I don't think she's got Mulder quite right, because Mulder has, for want of a better term, become a wife guy.
Wife guy? Can you define wife guy?
As far as I understand it, it's the wife guy normally it's a good thing, but it's like the cheerleading the spouse kind of thing. It's like everything they do is amazing and perfect.
So it's kind of like a 90s movie wife who just exists to support her husband's dreams.
Yes, but inverted.
I see.
Because Mulder is kind of a house husband, even though he doesn't actually do the housework.
He cooks once.
Yeah. But he's doing podcasts and Scully has a job at Genomica.
I kind of liked Mulder being the world's worst podcast guest at the start as well. You only see him do it like once or twice, I think.
I think it's only once.
Only once. But it's when he goes on this kind of show talking about cryptids and barely speaks and then gets threatened by the podcast host at the end saying, look, we're only going to invite you on if you're entertaining.
Well, I think that's kind of a given. That's why you would be there.
But it's through this kind of live podcast recording that he meets Avatar for the first time.
Yeah. But to go back to the podcast a minute, there's definitely a fanish, and I'm not trying to be disparaging, but there's the fanish attention to detail in this book quite a lot. There's a lot of deep cut things, and still some bits I thought they took a slightly odd tack, but it's like they throw out references to Lanny from Humbug, and Leonard Betts, they just call them by their first names, so it's just Lanny and Leonard.
I think that is just the same guy from Humbug. They were something like that.
Yeah.
It was Lenny and Lanny or something like that.
Well,
it's not Leonard Betts.
Oh, it's not Leonard Betts, okay.
No, it's talking about Lanny's brother.
Oh, okay. But still, that's a kind of deep cut I'd expect a fan to do rather than anyone who's engaged in an official capacity. And it seems like there are multiple allusions to Clyde Bruckman, which that makes perfect sense. That was very pivotal. Again, I would still, as I mentioned before, the fact that Tithonus doesn't come up, Clyde Bruckman's the big one, but Tithonus is usually agreed on how it happened.
I think Clyde had more of an impact on Scully, though, because even within the series, she does reference Clyde Bruckman a few times.
I know. Though I am left with the implication that Scully thinks that Clyde Bruckman made her immortal, and it's like...
When it was the guy in Tithonus.
Yeah, he did this to you. But just to keep that whole ball rolling. But one thing I thought was missing a bit is Mulder's kind of dismissive of the Sasquatch.
But he goes squatching.
Exactly. He's like, has lost out of forehead sweat. That's what he was doing at the start of the episode. You can't tell us he doesn't believe in the Sasquatch
point.
still.
Yeah.
So it's like little bits like that, and I understand trying to keep Skinner around. At the same time, I'm very curious if that was mandated. I know that oddly, Lucasfilm, I don't know how it is now, but Lucasfilm used to be different because I mentioned it at the top, but it bears repeating, that they asked one of the authors, and I think it was the courtship of Princess Leia. The whole point of it is that they asked him about the process, and it's like they actually send you this binder of the universe as it is at the time of publishing.
I've got to admit, I was hired as a ghostwriter only once in my very short writing career.
Yeah, you didn't get anything.
No, I didn't get any money for it whatsoever. I was only hired as a ghostwriter once in my very, very brief writing career to write some supplementary short stories for a video game that subsequently was never released, so that goes down in history. However, what they sent me before I started was they commissioned me to write 3 short stories for it. They sent me what we'll call a Bible. So it was maybe a 100-page document that went into the minutiae of all the major characters, all the places, how magic systems worked, because this was kind of like a futuristic sci-fi fantasy magic-y RPG it was going to be. And then they sent me 3 synopses, which basically they told me the length they wanted each short story to be. So one was a little vignette to one that was a proper novella. It was about I think 40,000 word thing. And for the vignette, they gave me nothing. It was like, oh yeah, it's got to be an introspective about this one particular character, and just left me to go with it. And for the biggest one of the 3, basically they sent me plot beats. And it's like, we want the story to follow this structure. It's got to do this in Act 1, this in Act 2, this in Act 3. But then they left me to my own devices about how I reached each of these plot points. So I'm kind of imagining when we talk to the skeletal structure, you've at least got that kind of idea of they're saying, you've got to, by halfway through the story, have done X, Y, and Z and work through it like that.
Yeah. And I can only imagine in this case, I can't believe the X-Men bit was mandated.
It feels weird. I think the X-Men bit is one of the problems I have, and from what I read on Reddit, it's make or break. Fans really ate into this or they hate it. There's no middle ground.
Yeah.
But for me, it doesn't work because the X-Men and the X-Files are two beloved series, but they haven't got much in common.
No. And I would say, we've repeated a lot of the times through this, that one of the critical parts of the X-Files is for every 2 steps they take forward, they take 1 step back at minimum. You cannot allow Scully to have these powers on demand. Much like Mulder's weird abilities in biogenesis, they were gone by the end of Sixth Extinction Part 2.
Yes. And it was made quite clear that they weren't a good thing. They were killing him. They had to go.
But no one was allowed to hang on to that kind of ability. At least not in the core cast.
It's even within the monsters of the X-Files, is usually they either die or, in the case of the likes of Softlight, get spirited away by some shadowy organisation never to be seen again.
Yeah. And the other thing is, and it's probably a side effect of the fact that the X-Files as a TV series, is the powers never that elaborate. They have to be reasonably low-key. They can be destructive, but they have to be something you can film on a TV series budget. Which it helps the universe be cohesive, though.
That's why we have things like, as we've mentioned in the past, the X-Files vampires.
Yeah.
Where we just rekey a typical vampire story, but, it doesn't drink blood, it needs livers, or it needs melanin, or something like that. But essentially, your base monster is a vampire.
Yeah. But it's easy to understand how it can operate and be undetected because it's not making a big splash at all.
No.
And it's like the X-Men people in this, that once you run into them, you can't escape them. They're too obvious, it's too powerful. I don't know what Scully's even going to do with electrical abilities.
Yeah. And if we look at some of the rest of them, you've got the mundane person who can jump, and Robin Vane, who it doesn't shy away from telling you that he is Nightcrawler in the text.
Yeah.
And then on the other end, you've got King Shark apparently in there.
Yeah, which is an odd choice.
Mm.
And, well, tangential to that as well, it annoyed me, and I know why it's happening. It's because of pacing and because of tension and everything else. But Scully's powers are baffling to me in this. Because straight electrical power, that's fine. That's basically DPO. He could control lightning, he controls electricity. Yeah, we've actually seen this subset of powers done before. There shouldn't be any problem with that, except I don't think you should give them to Scully. But one of the quirks is that when Scully gets overly tense or overly stressed at the start of the book, because by the end she's kind of got a grip on them, her power goes off without warning.
It's strong emotion.
And this is why they think Bright Eyes at first has electrical ability, because of the incident with everything melting down in the car park. Although we then trace it back to it's actually Scully who was having stress while having an ultrasound.
Scully has an ultrasound alone right at the start. She's getting nervous, and the first thing you see before we flip to Bright Eyes is they can't get a clear picture on the monitor.
Yeah. And you want to say, okay, I see what you're getting at, but I know this is magic, and magic doesn't necessarily have to operate rules, but you generally assume the closer you are to the source of the disruption, the more potent it is, echoing out to gradually less and less of a reaction.
Mm.
And that doesn't make any sense in this one, because all the instrumentation in the room Scully's in is fine if fuzzy, but the parking lot, a substantial distance away, things are melting. Tablets are melting, the car headlights are destroyed, there's a complete mess down there.
Yeah.
And it happens a few times, because the electronics store happens more or less. I think that's fine. But that one with the Barry Manilow that's 2 blocks away and Scully is listening to music. And the whole sign gets vaporized. And it's a mislead, but it doesn't make sense to me as a mislead. I see what you're trying to do at the same time. It doesn't make logic sense to me afterwards.
Mm.
I can't then go back and say, oh, that's why that happened.
Yeah.
I'm more left going, why was it like that?
Why did we not melt the entire clinic?
Yeah. And I think you could have learned, but I think they wanted, I don't know, I think they wanted the ultrasound to be fuzzy rather than just have it outright destroyed. I don't know.
I think it's for your early suspicions that after Emily and William, that there is going to be something wrong with Scully's baby.
Yeah.
Which, even though I felt the more logical thing would be to give the baby the electric powers and have it's lashing out because somehow it knows its mother is in danger.
Yeah.
But I think what we've gone from an authorial stance is, this has happened twice before and it's what you're expecting. You're not expecting Scully to be the one with electrokinesis.
Yeah, and I can see that. I don't think it's the best choice.
No, it doesn't work for me. But then again, as I've found doing my usual surveillance of Reddit, it seems to be polarizing. Some people really did dig it.
If the X-Files is only existing in book form, I think they could probably swing it going forward. Again, not what I'm in the X-Files for, because I'm trying to think, there's the Red Lights. Do you remember the Red Lights?
Red Lights, the Silent Murphy film.
Yes, and
Robert De Niro. Sigourney Weaver.
Yep. So his one was, and sorry, spoilers for Red Lights, but the point isn't going to work unless we spoil the ending.
Oh, the ending's half the fun.
It is, but for the point to work.
All right. He's going to spoil all of Red Lights for you.
Go watch it and skip this little bit of the podcast.
And then come back and listen to it.
Go and listen to it.
Yeah.
One of the points is they are investigating people with purported psychic abilities, and they are discovering all of them are faked, or there's some explanation, or they're cheating. There's always a explanation for what's happening.
And then there is just one that she can't seem to prove, which is Robert De Niro's character, who is a blind psychic, who seems to be completely legit.
Yeah. And Silent Murphy is absolutely adamant this guy isn't on the level. Does Scully Weaver die?
Yes, she does.
She does die.
About halfway through the film.
Yeah. And basically, the end of the film, though, is this guy is trying to basically bat Silent Murphy away or beat him up, or I think they try to kill him at one point.
Yes,
they
do.
really don't want him to go anywhere near it. And it ends with Silent Murphy walking into the theatre where he's doing his act, and an earthquake happens. And that freaks Robert De Niro out massively. And he keeps shouting at Silent Murphy. He's like, "What did you do?" as he walks away. And the ending reveal is that Silent Murphy has psychic powers and has been desperately looking for another person like him.
Yeah. And potentially thought he had it with Robert De Niro until at the 11th hour figured how Robert De Niro was faking his act.
Exactly.
Which is genius. I'm not going to spoil that because what he goes through to fake this act is incredible.
Yes. My point of all this is that's a compelling storyline for the Red Lights.
Yes.
You can't then do that to the X-Files, because the X-Files doesn't have a point if you've got the lightning wielder investigating the supernatural phenomenon, because she is the supernatural phenomenon.
Yeah.
That breaks the mechanics of the show.
Especially that's our skeptic that's now a electric mutant.
Yeah, she needs to be the level-head person who's going to do the science more than needs to be flights of fancy. We're fundamentally changing something here, and I think it's a bad idea going forward.
It would have also been similarly a bad idea, I think, if Mulder had had the power too.
Absolutely.
Look at me, Scully, I'm levitating over here.
Well, that's made me think of, I can't remember the name of it, but there's a Philip K. Dick story about people who are developing mutant powers, basically.
Okay.
And they're all hunted down and gathered up because basically they're a danger to people, because, if you start exhibiting reality-defying powers, things start breaking down. And one of them is a guy who keeps testing that he can control it. He's not letting these things get to him. And eventually he's been able to convince all the people who've been pursuing him to sort of back off. And one of the quirks of the story is, though, they talk about him flying a whole load of times. And this is a story with horror cars and things.
Okay.
And then at the end, though, he just steps off the roof of a building and starts flapping his arms and just flies away. And it's like, this is so much easier than taking the car. And it's like, oh hell, he's not in control at all. He's delusional. We're doomed. So it's that kind of thing. So, yeah, it's the Inheritors. I suppose we have to talk about the Inheritors.
Our new syndicate.
I don't like the fact they call them the Syndicate at all. It's like, that's the fan name for them. They don't think of themselves like that. They were a gentleman's club. They were the Diogenes Club.
Diogenes. Yeah, they basically are. We've commented before that Mulder and Scully are supposed to be Holmes and Watson, for which case they would be your Diogenes Club, I suppose. The wealthy gentleman.
But aren't the Diogenes actually kind of on... Well, they're kind of bystanders more.
The line about Mycroft Holmes is that he worked for the government and at times he was the government, which describes the syndicate quite nicely, as they are this shadowy cabal that aren't technically the government but do usurp it at times.
Yeah. And there's a lot of detail we were never sure about them, exactly how their internal name wasn't ever clear.
You never even really knew how big this organisation was, because you essentially always saw like maybe half a dozen men sat in a dark room.
Yeah, and you have weirdness like Fight the Future put the guy who actually seemed to be in charge, shows up for the first and only time, and then he just never shows up again. It's weird details like that. So, and we have the Inheritors trying to take over from what they left behind, and you do want to say, it's been like 20 years or something since they all burned in that aircraft carrier.
Not to mention there was that new syndicate that didn't do so well the last time they tried this.
Well, yeah, the leftover one. And then I felt someone had forgotten about super soldiers, or they just said, the new syndicate's plan of a super soldier, and it was, I'm pretty sure that was the aliens. There was a lot of stuff about the aliens weren't doing what anyone thought they were going to do, and just do something new.
Reading behind the lines, Karl Gerhard Busch's virus didn't work the way he thought it would, but has started affecting the human genome, making people turn into mutants. And the Inheritors think they can harness this into some kind of mutant army for reasons.
Yeah. And I hate that this just makes me think of Star Wars. But I have an explanation for that. So it was when Last Jedi came out, I think. The point was made that Star Wars is allegedly a big expansive universe. You can do whatever you want in it. And Star Wars novels have proven that, yes, there's a lot of flexibility in here. That you can do all manner of things with it. But for films, we always come back to rebels, small, squitty, not well defended. The Empire land on the other side of the planet and come towards them with their massive war machines. All hope is lost.
Yes.
Happens over and over again. Sometimes it's in space, sometimes it's on land, sometimes it's in the jungle.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's on sandy beaches. And then they refilmed most of that and turned it into something else. The point was that Star Wars is theoretically infinite, but it always comes back to the same thing.
Yes.
And I feel the X-Files does that as well here. I mean, they tried. They killed the syndicate off and said, right, clean slate, we could do something else. And then flailed for the rest of the TV seasons. And then we've got a new syndicate back.
Yeah.
It's the same guys. They don't even have to be different people.
Except maybe slightly more modern, because they will now Skype it in.
To be fair, I think the COVID-19 changed everyone's attitude on that anyway. If COVID hadn't happened, Avatar would not be Skyping in.
There's nothing like having a syndicate working from home.
Yeah, as you mentioned, a lot of the perks. But Inheritors First is, it does show the limitation of the concept.
Yeah.
That we can't get away from. There has to be a shadowy intergovernment, international conspiracy pulling the strings. They have to exist somewhere. They have to be opposed to Mulder and Scully. And they have to care about the X-Files being reopened, even though, as always, we get the problem of, does it, cosmically speaking, matter that Mulder and Scully investigate any of these cases? What are they going to do? Because apparently you ought to control the FBI, so I don't understand why you're concerned.
True. Though it should be noted that their new AD, whose name escapes me, Judi Dench. Yeah. The one that they keep describing as being like Judi Dench, does appear to actually be on the level.
She does. Yeah, she seems to be more, kind of a more blatant fighting back than Skinner, because Skinner seems to be towing the line sometimes.
Yeah.
She seems to be kind of flouting it, and like Kirsch is very much depicted as one of their people.
Yeah. But
from Inheritors, we must turn to, I think, the biggest headache in the book. Avatar. So, and I understand that how I view Mulder is not how the fandom views Mulder, because we had that whole thing about the pickup artistry stuff, which I'm still going to say, you're wrong.
Yes.
Just flat out, no.
Mulder is sexy, but at the same time, Mulder is not sexy.
Mulder has the looks. Mulder has no idea how to make use of the looks. Mulder has no interest in using his looks. I think it's the point. Mulder's interests lie elsewhere. He's the weird quirk of fate of the attractive geek is what Mulder is. We
know Mulder phones sex chat hotlines and watches pornography in the office.
Yeah. He has a sex drive. He's just not particularly good at dealing with women, as far as we can tell.
Yeah.
He does lust after them. he's not making it a mainstay of his life.
Yeah.
I understand that. Avatar. It's hard not to get away that Avatar just represents both an authorial insert and I am name checking my recent things I like.
Her fandoms.
Her recent fandoms. Given Avatar is impossible to get away from. I mean, it could have been left kind of vague if still blatant obvious if you know what it is, with just bald kid with an arrow on his head.
That's how it mentioned it at first.
Yeah. It's the fact that Mulder then name checks Avatar The Last Airbender, you go, oh.
Has Mulder really watched Avatar The Last Airbender?
Because I think...
I'd even buy it if they had a little kid and
Yes.
he knew some of these things because, little William V over there has been watching Avatar The Last Airbender.
Because there's a one-off mention that Mulder has been watching Strange New Worlds, Star Trek Strange New Worlds.
Yeah.
That I can just about buy. I am in two minds of whether Mulder would care about modern Star Trek. We know he likes old Star Trek because we have him dressed up as Spock at one point.
Yeah.
That's fine. I don't know if he cares about modern stuff.
A lot of Mulder's references in the series are things like The Outer Limits, The Twilight Zone, The Magician.
No, he doesn't like The Outer Limits.
No, he doesn't like The Outer Limits.
It's The Twilight Zone or bust.
Plan 9 from Outer Space, then.
It's vintage, classic 50s, 60s, 70s sci-fi.
Yeah.
He probably fine with Star Wars. I don't know if they've even mentioned Star Wars.
No, I don't think they have.
But I can tell him liking Star Wars.
Oh, Star Wars reference, Small Potatoes.
Oh, yes. She's seen Star Wars.
So at least he's visually aware of Star Wars because, that's when she's being visited by Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, and that's when he gives up. Yes, yeah. Like he is aware of Star Wars. This is one of these kind of splitting hairs of your interpretation of a character, but Mulder doesn't strike me as someone who cares about modern pop culture. I can see him watching the newer Star Treks. I can see him getting very annoyed with Star Trek Discovery.
But we now know that Mulder is fairly familiar with things ranging from Avatar The Last Airbender to the X-Men to Andor.
I would say there's a caveat on Andor. WandaVision is the other one.
WandaVision's the other one. That was it. I was trying to remember.
The Andor one, you could read it as he doesn't know what Andor is. Because all he says is a t-shirt which has Andor written on it.
Ah, that's true.
Someone else later on mentions the Star Wars t-shirt in reference to Avatar.
But he is familiar with all the others,
He's familiar with WandaVision for some reason. And
also, even when Mulder starts throwing around his X-Men references, Scully, it turns out, knows about the X-Men too.
Yeah, and I think this is such a weird thing to argue about what character knows is I can just about buy Scully went to see X-Men 2 at the cinema. I can buy that she did do that.
There's watching it and retaining it, though, because I remember going with my mam to see that movie when it came out in the cinema. If I asked mam now to describe how Nightcrawler's powers work, she'd look at me and say, who the hell's the Nightcrawler?
Yes. So I think that's the problem of, I can see them going to cinema because it's big blockbuster release of the summer.
Yeah.
Retaining afterwards, unless you actually care about the X-Men, is another matter entirely.
Yeah.
Or ever choosing to rewatch it, because that doesn't feel like Scully's thing.
No.
It doesn't feel like Mulder's thing either, because, we've seen what Mulder does. Mulder's pop culture is really narrow. It's fairly easy to define. And it's just a judgment call, but Mulder's not watching WandaVision.
No.
Because Mulder has not watched Avatar Avengers Endgame and then thought, oh, what happens to Scarlet Witch in the Vision? Watched WandaVision. Or Mulder does not want to watch Doctor Strange and heard you have to watch WandaVision to watch Doctor Strange, which is what we were told, and I think was a lie.
Somewhere the fans are sharpening their pitchforks for me, but I think that, again, it's an excuse you can make if you had a little boy or something like that, or any little kid who might be into the Marvel Universe.
Even a teenager.
Yeah.
If you had a teenage daughter.
I know, I have a co-worker who recently watched all of the Marvel movies, even though he's not into that kind of thing at all, because his nephew was into it, so every time his nephew came around, they watched a different one, and now he's watched his way through them all because of his nephew. But were it not for the little kid, he never would have done that.
No. I think it's one of these things where if you're in that area, it feels overwhelming to you that the idea that someone couldn't see it.
Yeah.
I mean, personally, I get that with Final Fantasy VII sometimes. And there's a point to this one, which is one of Lindsay Ellis's podcasts, and I think it was Theatre Splaining, or Musical Splaining, which is the one where she has her friend who doesn't like musicals, who she forces to go and see musicals, and then they talk about it afterwards. You heard the Phantom of the Paradise one, which is really funny.
Yes, yeah. I remember.
And she often mentions in one of them that it's the appreciation that your sphere of interest doesn't necessarily intersect with anyone else's, because she doesn't mention who it is, and there's a few candidates floating around in her circle of friends who were really sort of pushed her to play Final Fantasy VII. She didn't have interest in it, and she tried and just couldn't get into it.
You even see it within niches within niche, because, and I'm sorry, my random commenters on streams who recently discovered I'd never played GTA 5, but their entire logic is, it's the second best selling game of all time. I'm not really interested. Oh, but you've played Yakuza. It's similar to Yakuza. It's like, yeah, but I'm not interested. It's different.
It's quite different to Yakuza from what I can tell.
You hit those niches, and if you're in that niche, you're in that niche.
Yeah. Yeah, so I do appreciate the sensation would be, if you're in the Marvel fandom, that the Marvel fandom basically encompasses everyone.
Yes.
And it's the inability to realise that there's a better odds that more people have seen the modern Marvel films and seen the Avengers films and seen...
It's more accessible than it's ever been. It's not like in the days where there was a certain kind of image you have of a person who was a huge Captain America fan because he'd been reading the comics.
Exactly.
When comics were things that only really, really super nerds would dare to ever read.
Yeah. But I think you hit the nail on the head of there is that critical difference between seeing it and retaining any information from it. Because, I can actually believe Mulder and Scully have been to see Avengers Endgame, and if you asked her the day afterwards, Scully would say, was he the guy with the fist? And you'd have to say, well, is that the Hulk or Thanos? Which one?
Yeah.
And she'd say, the green one? Well, he wasn't green anymore. He's kind of great. And you'd sort of just throw your hands up at that point and say, oh, never mind. It doesn't matter. I do feel that Claudia Gray let that her chance to say, I like Avatar, I like WandaVision, I like Andor, I like Batman, overwhelm any sort of logic of, does this make sense to put into the story and have the characters recognize it for what it is?
Yeah.
This is subjective. I understand this is very subjective, and people will interpret Mulder and Scully a lot of different ways. We've seen that people have some wild assumptions about both of them. I don't buy it for either character, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And it just from her, what she's written elsewhere, I get the impression it's like, yeah, you like Andor, that's fine. It's relevant for all of 3 or 4 years, and then Andor is basically...
I don't know much about Claudia Gray. One is, I don't like pop culture references like this because they don't age. As you just said, if somebody is picking this up in 15, 20 years' time, will they know what WandaVision is?
Yeah, there's a better than good odds they'll know Avatar will have stayed around, because it's endured quite well. The rest of it, Batman, I think that would work, because that image is never going to fade.
But Andor and WandaVision.
Andor and WandaVision are very different beasts.
And two is, I don't know much about Claudia Gray herself, but looking at the kind of things that we know that she's written, I just feel that's the author insert character.
Yeah.
That is Claudia Gray in this story.
I can make clear that I'm into these things more than other things, so I'll put them in.
And the mysterious wise person who's feeding them tidbits of information does feel like the author inserted in there.
We're kind of really racking on Claudia Gray now.
I mean nothing personal by it.
Yeah.
A lot of people have their author inserts. I mean, I hate Harry Potter and everything it stands for, but what people have always argued about Hermione being the author insert in Harry Potter, because you've got the hyper-intelligent person who gets them out of lots of problems.
It's true. I mean, my favourite authorial insert is Kurt Vonnegut, but then again, Kurt does things a little bit differently.
When you have Kurt Vonnegut himself and Kilgore Trout.
Yeah, it's the fact that both of them exist, and Kilgore Trout could not be any less obviously be a Kurt Vonnegut, and then Kurt Vonnegut shows up as well.
But Vonnegut's a good example of this is something that always happens.
Yes.
It's not a new concept. It's not a fault even of Claudia Gray.
No, but it depends how you use it, because Kurt Vonnegut is using it for really specific reasons why he's doing this.
Yeah.
He knows why he's showing up, and he knows why Kilgore Trout is showing up to make a point. Because I was just about to say, as you were sort of saying about the authorial insert, is I'm not totally sure that Avatar tells them anything useful in the course of this book. Like, anything.
No. I think most of the things they find out independent of Avatar.
Yeah, I mean, again, it comes back to the X-Files can't escape the sort of the setup and everything, and so it's fine that they have a new informant. Yeah, okay. There's a nice comment from Scully about how she doesn't like meeting in derelict parking garages because it usually draws more attention to it. Which made me think of Breaking Bad. Because there's the first setup that Walter White and Jesse have with Tuco. They meet in a junkyard.
Yeah.
And he's just going, why are we here not meeting at the mall? And it's like, yeah, it's like how these people actually operate is to not draw attention by going somewhere no one else is.
Yeah.
If you do it in a crowd, it's far harder to spot you happening. And if no one's looking for you, no one's actually going to bother looking for you.
Yeah.
I've gone where that point came from now. What was I on about?
You just wanted to talk about Tuco.
A little bit. Oh no, they come from Scully about how she didn't like it being parking garages.
Yeah.
So I like that, and we get to the X-Files template, but Deep Throat, X, and Marita would hand something over the first time they were put into use. They had something to give Mulder.
Yeah.
Every time. Like Deep Throat just told him to leave off. X basically introduced himself and I think gave him the files for Sleepless, didn't he?
He did. X sometimes led you in the opposite direction, though, as well.
But he still gave Mulder something on that first meeting.
Yes.
And Marita, if we discount the first meeting where he first meets at the UN and the first time he uses her as an informant, she gives him some information or tells him something or gives him something, I forget. It feels really, I feel like I'm picking on her again, but it's like Avatar needs to have done something. Not just
show her worth.
Yeah, I'm your new informant.
I felt Mulder trusts Avatar a bit fast as well because he's met her once and he puts literally the bat signal in the window to call her.
Yeah. It's that difficult thing, as you said, it's pop culture references and aging. It's the whole, yes, it's cute, and I think the t-shirt at the end is very cute. At the same time, it also feels exhausting because this has become pop culture and it's just done too much. We need to stop doing this.
In my head, it's more akin to what I would expect, and I'm making a sweepy assumption having not read them, but a Buffy tie-in novel. Because Buffy was renowned for having a lot of pop culture references.
That was what we were talking about before this, wasn't it? It was Whedonisms.
Whedonisms, that's a good way, yeah.
And the precursor to this, though, was Tarantinoisms. Because there was a phase, because it's easy to forget now that Tarantino makes films so irregularly, but there was a sense in the early days, and I remember it coming up for Usual Suspects, is people thought at the time Usual Suspects was very Tarantino-esque. And by that, someone went through afterwards and said it's not really, because by what that they meant, there's like the one reference to a comic character in the Usual Suspects. It's a throwaway line that someone makes about it. And it's that conjuncted with like some of the pop culture reference that Tarantino does in Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction.
And you have something like that entire conversation about the Royale with cheese that's...
Yeah. Or the Superman conversation in Kill Bill Volume 2.
Yes, that's a good one.
It's that kind of thing. But with a lot of years of hindsight, it's interesting to contrast Tarantino and Whedon. Because Tarantino, he does throw these out, but they don't get bogged down with things. These are like specific conversations about that thing. And they don't show up elsewhere. Whereas Whedon just peppers it through everything. It just runs through it like a stick of rock, doesn't it? And there's a very Whedon-esque feel to how Perihelion works, especially the pop culture stuff. Or the callbacks to the X-Files. I mean, it's a thing we've been complaining about the X-Files doesn't do regularly, but some of them are deep cuts that I would struggle to think you'd remember 23 years later.
Yeah.
This was your 9-to-5 job. Clyde Bruckman has a massive impact on your life. I understand why you remember him.
Just trying to see if I can find some Buffy quotes just quickly, just to give an illustration.
I've got one I can remember off the top of my head.
Go on, what are you going with?
So my one is when Giles takes over the magic shop.
Okay, yeah.
She says, are you sure about this? The average owner has a life expectancy of a Spinal Tap drummer.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I actually really do like the line, but...
Well, you even have to the basis of... There's the episode early on with the ventriloquist dummy.
Oh, yeah.
Where Xander's holding the dummy and going, Red Ram, like The Shining.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just little... Just pop culture quotes and nods like that.
Yeah, and it's the kind of thing where you want to... It's difficult to talk about these days because, I mean, one thing, Whedon has really trashed his reputation in the years afterwards.
Not to mention there was all those Me Too kind of comments about Buffy the Vampire Slayer made by the actress who played Cordelia Chase.
Exactly. He's not done himself any favours. And I know some of it's got to be aging because at the time that was fun and cool and everything, but I think more than that, it was Buffy did this and no one else was, and now everyone's doing it, and therefore it's difficult to get through it because it's just exhausting because it's like there's no contrast anymore. See also Marvel Avengers stuff.
Yeah.
Which, who directed 2 of those? Damn it.
I got the reference.
Actually, that one, I actually kind of like that one just because it's such an old reference and you got it because it's so old.
Yeah.
See, you can still do it. It's just, there's just too much of it. We've completely come around one of the most bizarre things that you pointed out to me beforehand, and I sort of couldn't ignore it. It's the English fetish.
Oh my god, I was been waiting for you to talk about the English fetish. It's a particular bugbear of mine because I don't sound English as well, as I spend 99% of my streams telling people I'm English. But yeah, how does she fetishize English characters? I'm sorry, Claudia Gray, I'm making assumptions about you. I presumed that she's American. Just because of the abject obsession with English people we have in this, and how sexy we are.
Well, she lives in New Orleans.
She's evidently never heard me speak if we're assuming that the English are sexy at this stage.
And her real name is Amy Vincent. It just says on the back of the book.
Oh, it's a pen name, is it?
It's a pen name.
Didn't realise that. But we certainly have a particular inclination to have all English people in the novel speak as though they are members of the royal family.
Yeah.
And especially when Robin Vane, our aristocratic assassin, takes everybody over to London for a nice fry-up at one point.
No. Robin Vane, our aristocratic nightcrawler.
But it specifically says he speaks like a British aristocrat as well, which are half of the people that most of the English populace spend all of our lives mocking.
Yes. Well, it's also that the new AD is English.
Judi Dench. She says on numerous occasions that she's like Judi Dench, so I'm imagining we're thinking Judi Dench as M in James Bond here.
Yeah. And it's easy, again, it's one of these ones where historically I understand that it doesn't have the same impact anymore, but Judi Dench being M in James Bond was a massive, massive departure from how things were done before. Her casting was a big shake-up of the status quo. It wasn't done just because Judi Dench is a good actress.
It should possibly be noted for anybody listening to this who isn't English that a minority of the English populace actually sound like Judi Dench.
Yeah.
This is our central London upper-class, very well-to-do accent. Most of us do not sound like that.
Yeah. But, and then Robert Vane's English, and he teleports her to England for...
Also don't really have aristocracy in the way Robin Vane is portrayed.
So, I'm actually just bemused on reflection. It's like Robin Vane taking Scully to England for overnight stay.
Yeah.
What's he doing? Why doesn't he take it to Mystica immediately?
Because we need to get across the fact that he is a particular well-to-do individual, and I will not keep my posh English voice going much longer, because it is actually exhausting to talk this way all the time.
But it's the kind of thing, though, I'd expect an editor to say, do you need this bit?
Yeah.
What does this actually serve in the novel?
It shows the fact that he is, I guess, respectful. But he could have done that by teleporting into a diner and buying her a fry-up.
Yeah.
Do Americans have fry-ups? Is this a concept that exists?
They certainly have a fried breakfast of some kind, I think.
It's a very English thing, the fry-up. Because I think she even has blood pudding and stuff, doesn't she?
She actually goes for the real quintessential stuff that most of us don't bother with. Blood pudding's not a thing I've eaten.
You often do see it offered, and it's often the bit that people ask to not go in their fry-up these days.
It's not a...
It's... For the record, for anyone who doesn't know, it's an English dish that's either called blood pudding or black pudding. It is just made with congealed blood. It's basically slices of sausage made with blood. And you can imagine the smell of it, just from describing it that way. But yeah.
It's never appealed, and I've never wanted to do it. But,
no.
But yeah, it's such an odd thing, and it almost feels like, and this is also unfair, but it almost feels like she wanted to write Nightcrawler and then decided that you can't make Nightcrawler Russian.
Nightcrawler's German.
Nightcrawler's German, okay. But he's Kurt
Wagner. He's German.
Kurt Wagner, okay. you can't. She doesn't want She wants to write Nightcrawler, but she doesn't want Nightcrawler to be German. She doesn't want him to have the skin, and she quite likes it when Alan Cumming puts on an English accent because I think he's Scottish.
He is Scottish.
He's Scottish, but
he does do a very good
English accent,
better than my upper class English accent. But yeah,
it's you can't go away from this whole idea that she really loved Nightcrawler in X-Men 2 and then wanted to have him, but then have been watching some like Cabaret and saw him dressed normally, so she wanted him to be like that.
He's German in Cabaret as well. I just want to put that out for you.
I know. You know what I'm getting.
You're thinking his character in Josie and the Pussycats is him doing his very British accent.
I get that. Yeah, she's watched Josie and the Pussycats and said, I want that's Robin Vane.
Yeah.
But with Nightcrawler's abilities. I think, and we kind of were drifting back towards it again, but it's still the fact that I don't mind having a teleporter because the X-Files has had time travel and all the other kind of weird paranormal stuff. It's the fact that you have to go down to him leaving smoke behind afterwards, which is just no other teleporter to my knowledge does that except Nightcrawler. That's just too on the nose.
Yeah. And also, I'm making fun of the fetishization of my people. But other than that, it's one of those things where unless you live in central London and you're quite wealthy, it kind of jars with you if you're English when you hear that portrayal. The English villain voice, shall we call it.
Well, I'd say also the Fallen in the Funeral effect.
Yeah, you've got that. It's imagining that we are all Hugh Grant.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Like, no, if you watch, probably closer to what Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels is kind of like, what are you actually aiming for?
Yeah, that's more standard English, to be honest.
Or Snatch, or... I'm trying to think of other... Yeah, go for those two.
I guess it's like if you portrayed all Americans as being like your 1% in America.
Yeah.
That's the equivalent for us when we see characters like this. It's like that's a very, very small minority of people actually fit this.
And therefore it's such a weird detail to have here.
I always describe people, it's how many times on my stream people have asked me if I'm from New Zealand or something like that. It's like, no, this is a rural English accent. In fact, mine's not particularly strong for that either. But you're thinking Daphne from Frasier, more so. She's Mancunian, which is a Northern English accent. That's a bit more in keeping, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's my bugbear. My problem with...
I think it's fair.
And it's just the fact there are two of them, because you have the AD and you have Robin Vane in this novel as our upper-class British contingent.
For very little effect.
I would give them more credit if the AD came in and said, "Hey up, Chuck."
I don't think you get to be that high in the FBI if you say, "Hey up, Chuck." It's a weird place to leave off on as well, Perihelion being the last official X-Files thing as of July last year. Given, I mean, on the one hand, I'm kind of glad Scully's having a girl, because I think a repeat of William would be really tedious.
Little Perihelion.
Little Perihelion. They should call it Little Perihelion. That'd be funny.
I really wanted that to be the final sting. When we got to the end and we hadn't had the title come round yet. It's our daughter, Little Perihelion Scully. Scully Mulder or Mulder Scully? They don't double barrel very well.
They don't.
The Mulder Scullys.
I was going to say, one thing we didn't touch on, so there was the future and everything. And we did touch on the fanfiction bit a bit, but I think we actually left off the critical part of that. This isn't new for her. She's been doing this for a long time. Since, she didn't actually say, but 24-baud modem means, geez, that's like early 90s kind of era tech. She's been doing this for a long time. And we know the X-Files existed as an online fandom even right back at the start, given all the fuss over David Duchovny in those trunks.
The Speedos.
The red Speedos. But I don't know if it's fair or unfair to sort of say, you look at her comments on the back of this and say, how much of this was generally a good idea for going forward, or did you jump at the chance to say, I get to canonize my fandom? Because she says, this is about how she met her editor on this. We were united by our love for the show and our shared convictions that Mulder and Scully absolutely needed to kiss.
Of course.
Of course. And I do appreciate this is the vast majority of fanfiction is geared around doing this. Some people who do want that as an outcome are deeply tedious. Not saying Claudia Gray is one of those. There's other fandoms. My God, I do get annoyed by them. But it's that problem of, even though season 11 definitely set up them as a more increasingly romantic couple, their on-screen affection was actually kind of limited still.
Mm. We didn't really have any kisses in full glorious daylight or anything like that.
You had a load of applied off-screen sex, and they were going on dates together. And I don't know, it's that thing I find fandoms have of needing to see the kiss.
Yeah.
They have to. But I also did think as well, and it's the pregnancy, and I hate that my mind goes to here, but I've seen this behavior too often to discount it, is certain fandoms love pregnancies.
Yes.
And it's all geared around the fact that if the couple has a child coming or they have a child together, that is then seen as basically a foundational, viable block. Despite the fact that real life, whoa, everything can fall apart still. There are so many things that can split a family apart even if you've got a child.
Yeah.
But in fandom, if you hit that point, basically, that's the end state.
True love.
True love. Nothing bad can happen from here on.
You've had your passionate relationship, you've got married, you've settled down, you're stable.
Yeah.
And you've got a little one.
Yeah, and people love this as the end point, and they sort of want to reach it in any form they can do. I have one example of the hilarious counter-example, which is Bleach, of all things, the anime and manga.
I don't know where Bleach goes, I'm afraid.
The whole operative part of this is Ichigo. For those of you who haven't seen Bleach, it's not worth it. I liked it at first, and then it just ran off the rails, became increasingly
a typical
unsatisfying.
shonen anime. Yeah.
So our sword-wielding lead has two people in his orbit who would make pretty good partners, we could say. I'd say actually one of them makes a good partner, because I was going to say, I think you made the wrong choice. Anyway, one of them is the Death God, who is depowered and tells him how to become a Death God so he can do stuff in her stead. Rukia. The other one is the attractive orange-haired girl with the large chest.
Orihime.
Ichigo winds up with Orihime.
I must admit, I would have guessed he would end up with her because she's the other girl of his age.
Yeah, but Rukia is the one he has more chemistry with.
Yeah, true. But isn't Rukia like an ageless death god?
When does this happen? No one says this about Twilight, do they? Come on.
Okay.
And the other one is Orihime has a whole implied relationship with one of the other girls that ultimately doesn't go anywhere. Because her friend was really upset with her when she went off to Soul Society for 6 months or whatever it was.
Okay.
Point of this is...
I presume these are things that happen in Bleach. Yeah.
My operative point of this whole was, when Bleach ended and Ichigo wound up with Orihime, a certain set of fandom hated this and immediately started writing infidelity fics. And it's the whole, you have the ability to do whatever you want to the universe. You don't have to take the ending, but the ending was sacrosanct, so they had to work around the ending.
Yeah.
So infidelity. It's such a weird decision. But anyway, my whole point of this was... I
don't know how you fanfic writers work, but can't you just rewrite your own ending?
That's what I would do. And that's
Isn't that the easiest way? It's like, just disregard it and write your own ending for it.
Well, now we get into, and these are the most deeply infuriating arguments of fandom to me, is it's how gospel you take the official releases.
Okay.
And
is it like a respect thing where you can't change the actual ending because someone else has done it?
I don't even know if it's respect. It's you wielding canon as a cudgel, basically.
Okay.
I am right. The official thing says this. You are the people who are writing other pairings are stupid idiots who don't know what they're talking about. I have all the right on my side, is how it seems to boil down to me. They may put it in tamer words, but it's the refusal to counteract or take a different route than what the official story says.
Yeah. And
people don't like not doing that, even though everything winds up the same if everyone takes the same tact, which is... But then people seem to like it. So people want to read endless variations of Mulder and Scully as a happy family with a daughter, which is what we're getting.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah. But it's hard for me to not engage with the ending and say that, yeah, this is a very fanfic way of rounding this out. They haven't got married yet, but that's surely on the horizon at this stage.
So you take something instead maybe like Witcher 3 ends, in which there's no marriage, there's no kids, because Geralt physically can't have kids.
Yep.
It just ends with him essentially retiring and settling down at a vineyard with his female friend.
Yep. So I've never read any Witcher fanfic, so I don't know.
But I thought that was a really nice ending.
It's a really nice ending. And I would, based on how fandom operates, I don't know anything about the Witcher fandom, to be fair. I've never gone near it, just because Like, the one time I tried to venture into a weird new fandom was I found Inception stuff, and I thought that you can do loads of things with this. And it turned out everything was about Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character and the posh guy, not the chemist, the guy who had all the heavy weapons. You know, who you can stand to dream a little better, darling.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's all about those two.
All right,
as a couple.
Fair enough.
None of the rest of it. It's like, where the hell is everyone else?
Yeah.
It's like, I didn't come here for this.
Mm.
I came here for the Inception stuff. More fool me, apparently. So I don't know how the Witcher stuff works, but I would be surprised if there aren't Geralt settles down with insert female companion here, because we know it functions just fine with either of them.
Yeah.
The game itself doesn't actually care which way you go. But I could fully imagine they would actually get married at some point. And in realms of fanfiction, of course, you can undo that infertility. There's ways around this.
Of course.
It's magic.
Yay, magic.
I mean, I mentioned to you offhand, it was the Vampire Diaries, was just the real stupid get out clause at the end there.
Yes.
Where the main character's been magically put to sleep, and if she wakes up, everyone she loves will die. And the last episode is, well, the witch has just figured out how to undo that spell, undo a different spell. Everyone's alive and well, and we're going to end the series. Yay! Everyone then dies off and goes to the afterlife at the normal state of affairs.
Yes.
Sorry, I've spoiled the end of the Vampire Diaries, but it's not a good show, guys. So sorry, Claudia Gray. I think you seem to be a really good writer. I don't think this was the best plan for a sequel to the X-Files.
But I super like the way she writes Scully.
Yes.
I'm going to hinge to that of she has been, I think, my favourite Scully writer in a long time.
Absolutely. I half want to say it sounds a bit disrespectful that, maybe she should have co-written with someone else who could do Mulder a bit better. I don't know. Because I think Mulder suffers in this.
Yeah, but Mulder...
I don't care so much, yeah.
Mulder also suffers whenever Darren Morgan writes him too, to be fair.
I know, it's funnier when Darren Morgan does that.
Yeah.
This is just kind of a very milquetoasty Mulder. I think the book is written perfectly well. My problems are more with the direction it's set up in and the plot and how we can't escape the original premise of the X-Files.
I am kind of curious to see if they're going to continue this, though.
I do think it's going to turn into an X-Men novelization if it keeps on going at this rate.
Yeah.
Unless that retrovirus is done really... I suppose that's one thing as well. It's that we've run across that juxtaposition they have of... They keep saying about Mulder and Scully saving the world. And it's like, at best you're in a room when someone else did it, Mulder.
Yeah.
In this one, they actually actively are planning to save the world, which feels like that's... The enormity of that is too much.
Yeah.
You're not the X-Men who I would say would go off and do this on a matter of God.
Yeah.
And I did snarkily say to you, can we find Claudia Gray's old fanfics? Like, can we find the one where this story exists and that the channeler is Charles Xavier and Robert Vane has a Germanic accent?
And Scully might be Storm.
Scully might be Storm. We were really unsure who Scully would actually match.
I'm going to go with Storm or Surge. I can't think of any other X-Men with kind of electric powers, and I think Surge is female. I've got to admit, I don't know X-Men as well as some of the other comics.
No, but then if you just have a crossover of X-Files and X-Men anyway, you can just put Scully into the universe and just give her mutant powers anyway, so you don't need to replace the character with it, per se. But we could probably map out who the other mutants in that one training scene are. That's probably not hard to actually pin them down. We haven't, because why? I don't know. It's not really worth it. I don't know
the X-Men well enough.
And it's not worth it. We're not going to gain anything from this.
It used to be one of those things that appealed to me when I was a kid, but as an adult I never read any X-Men comics.
I find this about Spider-Man, because I don't understand why Spider-Man fans exist past 19.
Again, I loved Spider-Man when I was a kid, but I would agree with you.
Yeah.
It's not one that I continued reading when I became an adult.
Well, as a side, I think Linkara actually made a good point on this. Top of the Fourth Wall, Linkara, if you've never actually run into Lewis Lohag, pretty entertaining guy. We haven't watched his stuff for a while, but he used to do a Top of the Fourth Wall. I think he still does, which is entertaining.
It's where he'd analyse notoriously bad comics.
And he made a point because of One More Day, which is the infamous making a deal with the devil.
Oh, Spider-Man makes a deal with the devil. Yeah, I remember that one.
And his commentary on the end of it all was the fact that Marvel did not want Peter Parker to advance past a certain age.
Yeah.
He had to keep looping back to depending on when it was written, it was either like late teens or early college age, and he couldn't go past that.
Yeah.
His life couldn't develop past that. He was trapped in this endless recursion.
But for your idea of how the X-Files could advance in this revival, they did get around that with Peter Parker by just inventing new Spider-Mans like Miles Morales.
Yes, but we went over this, and that was Einstein and Miller, and look what happened to them.
True that.
Because I think we said, as I said last time, it's like Chris Carter's still certain that the idea of the X-Files, the premise of the X-Files is enough to carry it. And it was enough to make it start, but it's not why people come back. People come back for Mulder and Scully.
True.
And if you take them out of it, it's not going to work. And this is possibly what Ryan Coogler's finding out, is that there's pushback because they're not in it.
Yeah.
Getting someone to actually be invested in the concept of the X-Files is a lot more struggle without getting to know the leads fast.
Good point.
I mean, we could at some point talk about Strange as the British X-Files, and
I love Strange.
The disaster of Strange, and
all 6 episodes of it,
and just how fast it breaks down in terms of what are you doing.
Can I just say that for all the weirdness you had in your X-Files America, you didn't have the episodes where a skirting board ate someone?
No. Or the haunted breast implants.
The haunted breast implants would have been my follow-up, yes.
And the fact the conclusion was on a GeoCities website or something.
Was it? There's a conclusion I could go get?
Yeah, it's because of how the series got ended prematurely, because they thought they were going to get season 2.
And they did not.
They did not. There's a whole thing about Ian Richardson's character, who is the big bad.
Yes.
He's the actual big bad. And there's a whole thing about his eventual victory over them.
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure it was on GeoCities, but it was basically almost completely detached from everything. It's the official conclusion.
But yeah, that was our attempt at the X-Files. Please, if you can get it,
disaster.
Go and watch Strange. Your life is not complete without it.
It's astonishingly inept execution of the concept.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I'm sympathetic to Chris Carter because the X-Files had to get started somehow. People had to watch the show for the premise.
Yeah.
He just doesn't seem to understand that it needs a new premise now. You can't keep working off the old one. And that's why Einstein and Miller aren't here anymore. So, next time, we are going to wrap up everything.
Hooray!
So this will be the top, I don't know how many episodes we're going to have as our top, maybe 10?
Of all time?
Of all time.
Can we split it to the funny ones and the not funny ones?
I was going to say, I think we'll just have to have the caveat of, we'll give the top 10 episodes that don't include any funny episodes, because unfortunately they just overwhelm the results.
Yeah, otherwise it's going to be, what are your top 10 episodes written by Darren Morgan?
Well,
and Vince Gilligan.
At least we have a disparate one, though, because you put Clyde Brockman first, and I put Jose Chung. Then it's Lost Heart of Forehead Sweat, and then it's the rest of them. See, I know how this works. That's how the list works, isn't it?
Yep, pretty much.
But, yeah, our best episodes, the ultimate worst episodes, are the best. We have best villains, because I think there's a few who actually do deserve spotlights.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts about the series or the direction of travel? Although it's not clear. Well, we have one possible direction of travel, and it's the X-Men. And yeah, and then we are probably going to take a little bit of a break while we sort of reorganize to be about something else entirely.
We've got to decide. I think we'll safely say Things Are Getting Strange is going to continue, but we're going to have to decide what we're continuing into.
Yes. If you'd like to get hold of us with suggestions would be good. Our email address is thingsgettingstrange42@gmail.com.
Or hook me up on social media. On Twitter and Tumblr, we're at GetStrange42. On Mastodon, at getstrange42.universedon.com. Or on Facebook, where you can find us by searching for Things Are Getting Strange and X-Files Rewatch Podcast. Alternatively, if you're not sick of my voice right now, I do stream live on Twitch TV under the name AdverseCamper42. It's Mondays and Wednesdays at 8pm GMT and Saturdays at 5pm GMT, where I'm currently playing Blood Omen 2 Legacy of Kain on PlayStation 2 and Kingdom Hearts on PlayStation 4.
Our theme music is Envisioned by Kevin MacLeod. You can find it on Compotech.com, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0. Thank you all for listening, and until next time, please remember,
the truth is out there.